Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Civil Rights Agenda LGBT show. We are so happy to have you, and I wish to introduce my guest, Danielle MacDonald, and we are so happy to have her with us.
Hi, everyone.
And we're just going to kind of talk about some things. Remember that this is a call-in show. We are interactive, I'm sorry. I'm not sure about active, but we are interactive, and at the bottom of your screen you can see the number 312-738-1060. So, if you got any questions or comments, feel free to call. We are sponsored by anyway, so what now we were talking before we started the show that you are very mechanically inclined and you like to do stuff that has to do with engineering and stuff like that.
Just like, when I say engineering, it's that I kind of have a sense of being able to pick things apart and put them back together again.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be anything from software to a car engine. Doesn't really matter much.
Cool. Now, the people that you work with or for, they're very accepting?
Yeah, I've actually been very lucky. At my last job, I transitioned on the job, and it was in a customer-facing position.
Cool. Okay.
And that was interesting. I was doing a lot more phone support there, though, so it was a good excuse to be able to sort of work out how exactly I wanted to make that presentation work.
Okay. Yeah, when I was at Walmart, I was on the customer service desk, and I used to get a lot of weird situations at the time. Now I don't work at Walmart anymore, so, but anyway, so how long have you been transitioning?
It's been, depending on how you want to measure that, it's been 6 years or longer than that, because it was kind of a start-stop thing at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Financial reasons, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
it's complicated.
Oh, exactly.
Once a lot of that stuff sort of resolved itself, though, yeah, it's gone pretty well.
Good, excellent. Do you, a lot of the younger, like yourself, transgenders or trans women, say that they knew when they were like between 5 and 7 years old. Did you experience that?
So for me, I knew that I was different around the age of 9.
Okay.
And I knew that, I had a word to put to that around the age of 14.
Okay.
And this was a while back, so we didn't have quite the ease of access to the information that we have now.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that the first thing that I read when I think I started really looking for books and stuff to kind of give me a sense of what exactly being transgender means. And this was back around 2003, and this man you may have heard of, and I almost hate to broadcast this for anyone out there to know about, but this is there's this guy named J. Michael Bailey who wrote a book called The Man Who Would Be Queen. Mm-hmm. And a bunch of people are going to cringe hearing that, sorry. But that was the first book that I've read, and that kind of set me back a few years, because that was the one where he was trying to do some research into transgenderism and trying to understand exactly what that meant, but his test cases, what he was looking at was basically drag queens and so forth, which is not exactly representative of this experience.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I found some people that kind of helped out later and put me on the road to better knowledge.
Okay. No, you're right, and it bothers me that we sometimes get tagged as drag queens, which that has nothing to do with being transgender at all. But, so, 2003 was when the word transgender actually first was put into the dictionary, you know? And yet we've been around for 3,000 years.
Long time, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, American Indians had no problem with the concept.
Something can exist before we have a word for it.
Right, right. 500 years BC, both the Muslims and the Hindus had acknowledged transgenders.
If we want to talk about words, I hate to criticize, but generally speaking, a lot of my friends and a lot of what I've read generally discourages using transgenders plurally, just because that it can divorce us from the idea that we're talking about people. So generally speaking, I hear people prefer the term transgender folk, transgender people, something of that form, to denote a plural.
Well, I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's,
There's also the common colloquialism, and this is just how people talk too.
right.
So.
But yeah, and I've been told that I'm wrong for saying transgenderism.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that there's.
No, I've had people
Yeah.
on Facebook that told me, transgenderism isn't a word. Buddhism is, and that's people that believe in Buddha, you know. So
I will accept that it's a word because it is something that describes a phenomena that we're
Right.
trying to talk about.
Exactly. So, but yeah, there was another gal, and I can't think of her name. I've been trying this ever since you said about Mr. Bailey, although I think Mr. Bailey, wasn't he the one that got in trouble with the trans community because...
Got in trouble for a few reasons.
Yeah.
Also had something happen at one point with a presentation involving a sex worker, and it was... Yeah, he's not afforded much respect any further.
Right.
But unfortunately, people still use arguments from people like him.
Right.
And it's
Right.
relevant to acknowledge that.
Right. No, I know a gal that really had, because he used her as a character in a book or something that to her was very derogatory.
Yeah.
And he was not happy with that, or she was not happy with that at all. I don't know what the outcome ever was because I haven't seen her in such a long time. Okay, we have a caller. Hello, caller. Do you have a question or a comment?
Well, hiya, Jackie.
Hi, how you doing?
This is Paula. How you been, honey?
I've been very good, thank you.
There you go. I haven't seen you for a little while. That question that the young lady next to you just asked about that particular case, he got charged just like if he was a woman. That man that did that to that transvestite got charged just like if he was charged on a woman. So that case is all going through its litigation, and good for that person that stood up for himself, whether it be a man or a woman. Nobody's got the right to put their hands on you, no matter who they are, where they are, what president, no matter what. But you are looking wonderful, Jackie. Who's your friend next to you?
Beg pardon?
I said, who is your friend next to you?
Danielle,
Danielle.
Hi, Danielle. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Are you guys going to the big parade tomorrow? I'm going.
I'll show up.
Pardon me?
The Pride Parade?
Yes, the flag parade.
Yeah,
Is
should
that
be there.
tomorrow?
I don't.
It's tomorrow.
I thought it was the last Sunday of the month.
No, honey, it's tomorrow, sweetheart. Everybody's getting ready tomorrow. Unless I got my wires crossed, I better check my smartphone. I thought it
Okay.
was tomorrow, honey.
Well, no, thank you for enlightening
Yeah.
me. I'll have to check into
I
that.
think
there
Pride
you go.
Fest is tomorrow.
I just wanted
and I
to
think-
say hello to you. You're looking great this evening. And tell all
Oh, you
your
are so
friends
wonderful.
There you go. Tell Auntie Paula said hello to you, and God bless you, and be safe.
Thank you. Same to
Don't
you.
forget the cold cream story, okay?
Okay.
The cold cream in the sock, okay?
Okay.
Love you, Jackie. Bye-bye now.
Love you too. Thank you so much. She's a wonderful lady. Wonderful lady. We and those that call in, quite frankly, are some really, really good friends that have a lot of respect for the LGBT community, and it makes me feel so good when we have somebody that will on the air show that kind of respect, So thank you very much, and lines are still open, so anybody wants to call, please call. I had something I was going to ask before.
Sure.
But now I can't think of it. Did you have any, or did your parents have any conflict with what you were attempting to do?
Yeah. I'm going to tell a story here, and I don't want to, I need to make it clear first that my mom and I have a great relationship now, but this is the sort of, and I don't want to impugn my mother's good name, right? But she had a very hard reaction to it at first, and the first thing that she said was, "Why can't you just be gay?" And that's sort of reaction, I'm not the only, I've talked to a bunch of friends and stuff, and other people have told me similar stories,
Oh, yeah.
And I talked to her about it later after we had all had some time, but it was mostly this reaction of, this is going to make your life very difficult, I wish it was going to be easier on you, and I know that that's where it was coming from, but still not quite the reaction that you want,
No, but I've heard so many similar stories to that. And one thing that parents need to know is that what you experience, quite frankly, in 99% of the cases, what you're experiencing a mourning process. In other words, you've lost a son, and you're not focusing on the other part, okay, I've gained a daughter,
It's very much the way that she described it.
Right, and I know I've had some parents on the show that they've said the same thing. So that mourning period is going to be a period that you really can't predict, or in overcoming it is just a matter of continuing to talk. And what I always recommend to those trans people that have a difficult time saying anything, have your parents go with you to a therapist, so that the therapist can explain better than you what it's all about.
I felt, sorry.
Go ahead.
I felt very much like that they may need the therapist as much as you do.
Exactly,
But
they do.
More than this, the amount of conversations that I've had with people, I didn't have the words or the language really to describe a lot of this, and you're not going to at first.
No.
It's one of those things where when you're right at the beginning of that, everyone's going to expect a lot from you,
Oh, sure.
And it's, you need someone on your side to help you with that,
Well,
It took me years to be able to have command of the language in order to be able to explain to anybody what exactly I went through.
Well, that's like, you tell somebody, this is the way I feel. And their first question is, why? How many times do you say, gee, I don't know. All I know is this is the way I feel. I don't know why. Okay? So you can't explain the why. Whereas if they'll go, with the person to their therapist, the therapist can explain it.
Yeah.
And can put it into focus. And I'm so glad to have had all of the shows that I've had, both on the internet and here, because I've learned a lot talking to therapists. And so I can now pretty much explain to anybody why it happens. And it happens during birth. okay, or it happens before birth, because after genitalia is formed, okay, the brain is not active at that time. Brain is not active until 8 to 12 weeks after genitalia is formed. There are hormones like cortisone and adrenaline, et cetera, that if they're introduced to the brain when it first activates, it can make the brain change its identity of itself. Now, as a person, guess who you're going to listen to more? You're going to listen to what's coming out of your brain more than anything else. And that's been researched, that's been documented. In Texas, they did on a couple of cadavers, transgender, they looked into the brain and found that the core of the brain of a trans woman is the same as a female.
So they've done a bunch of research on this, and one of the interesting things is that they have studied people that have been on HRT, who've had hormones later in life in order to transition, and they've studied people who haven't, who never had hormones. And even the trans people that have never had any medical intervention still have some sort of a sexual difference. Their sexual dimorphism along what they say they are tends to be the case. Like, if you are a trans woman, your brain looks like that. And what's rather interesting about this to me is we can see these very early. In fact, there was a very recent study to this effect. What we do have to be careful of here, though, is that regardless of if we have a physical explanation or not for this, the point should be made that we don't need to be able to have some genetic marker or something in order to accept that someone is trans. If they say they are, they are.
Right.
And the reason why this is how many of you have ever had your genetics tested? How many of you actually know what your phenotypes are? You know, I've never done it. For all I know, I don't know what my chromosomes look like.
Right, exactly. Well, the point actually is that, you know, nobody knows you better than yourself.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's time to get the religious garbage out of it. It's time to get personal ill feelings out of it and just say, okay, I need to accept what this person feels.
And I think that it's, because I've heard a lot of people argue with me that, like, well, why should I care about your feelings? That's got nothing to do with how we ought to operate our government or society or whatever. And if we bow to everyone's feelings, but here's the thing. My feelings aren't actually going to affect you that much here. Then people say, well, what about my tax money going to help you with your medical expenses or whatever it is that I hear that.
My tax money is going to help other people, so.
Exactly, but like our tax money, everyone's tax money is going to help everyone. That's kind of the point of this.
Right, exactly. Absolutely. No, I'll tell you what it boils down to. I have never realized until recently just how little consideration people show in this country versus other people. There are countries that live very strongly by the saying, live and let live, and stay out of other people's business, blah, 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 blah. Okay? We can't do that. In this society, for some reason, we cannot and will not stay out of other people's business. We've got to get into their business and tell them what they can or cannot do, which is a real shame. Okay? So it comes down to one word: consideration. I mean, you can see it when you're driving down the expressway. How many people are considerate? Yeah.
You'd think that maybe we'd have a little bit more patience for each other.
Right. Exactly. Okay, the show's going to be wrapping up pretty soon. Is there anything that you would like to tell our audience, either from your own experience or so on and so forth? Feel free. This is your moment.
Oh gosh, I wish I'd actually prepared something. All I got is, I love you all, and you're all beautiful.
And I think we all are. And again, it gets back to, you know, how somebody feels about themselves is really nobody else's business other than their own. And that's what we need to learn to do in this society. It's a shame that how many Good Samaritans do you see? You know, how many people get involved in problems? Very rarely, you know. Some of them end up on the news, but there's not too much on the news because there's not as many people doing that, quite frankly. And if there was, we probably wouldn't have that much news, you know. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank Danielle for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Jackie.
Oh, you were great. You were great. You were fantastic. And I hope you can come back again sometime soon.
I'd love to.
Okay. All right. So, and I want to thank Mike, or Estrella. Mike. I think Mike's in the production booth. So I want to thank them for filling in. And until next month, same time, same place, third Friday, 6:30. Hope to see you then. So for now, goodbye.